Hussein had whispered, "My son Ali Asghar, do you want to come to the battlefield with me? Asghar, do you want to show your strength on the battlefield? Let us go, my little mujahid, my little soldier." Imam Hussein carried Ali Asghar to the battlefield. It was very hot and Ali Asghar was very thirsty. Hussein covered baby Ali Asghar with a cloth to protect him from the scorching sun. Yazid's men saw Hussein approaching with something in his hand. Look, Hussein is coming with the Quran. He has no one left to help him. With the help of the Quran, he is hoping to win. Hussein walked to Yazid's soldiers. By moving the cloth, he uncovered Ali Asghar. He held his son high with both his hands and said, "O soldiers of Yazid, you feel that I have offended you, but what has this little child done to you? His mother's milk has dried up, and he has not had a drop of water for 3 days. He is dying of thirst. I beg you to give water to this innocent child." Not one of Yazid's soldiers brought any water for Ali Asghar. Once more, Hussein begged, "Maybe you think that when you bring water for this child, I will drink it too. I will put this little child on the ground. You can come and give him water yourself." Hussein placed Ali Asghar on the burning sands of Karbala. Ali Asghar lay quietly on the hot sand. He turned his head and stared at Yazid's men. No water came for Ali Asghar. Hussein picked up Ali Asghar and said, "My son Ali, my darling, you are too young to fight with a sword or a spear. My little mujahid, my little soldier, you are the grandson of Ali. Asghar, fight this jihad with your tongue." Little Asghar stuck his dry tongue out and moved it over his dry lips, looking towards Yazid's men. He fought jihad with his tongue. The little soldier shot a strange arrow, his dry tongue. It hit the hearts of Yazid's soldiers, who had children of their own. They became restless and some even started crying. They spoke amongst themselves. "Hussein is saying the truth. What has this child done to us, and why is he punished like this? Let us give him some water." Ahmad Sa'id got worried that his soldiers will turn against him. The little soldier's fight was very effective. Little Ali Asghar was fighting jihad in his own way. Umar Sa'id ordered his best archer, "Allah, what are you waiting for? Silence the child. Don't you know he is a grandson of Ali? Hurry, shoot your arrow before it is too late." Allah aimed an arrow at Ali Asghar. He chose an arrow with 3 sharp heads for such a small child. An arrow flew across the desert of Karbala. It was headed for Ali Asghar. Hussein saw the arrow coming, so he covered Ali Asghar with his arms. The arrow went through Hussein's arms and lodged into the tiny neck of Ali Asghar. He died instantly. Instead of water, Ali Asghar got an arrow in his neck. Hussein gently pulled the arrow from Ali Asghar's tiny neck. "My fellow Husseini, put your hands on your hearts and imagine the scene. The father removing an arrow from the neck of his child. What a tragic scene." Blood gushed out from Ali Asghar's neck, and a voice came from the ground. "No, Hussein, do not let Ali Asghar's blood fall to the ground. Otherwise, no crops will ever grow on this earth." Hussein looked up at the sky. A voice came from the sky. "No, Hussein, do not let the blood gush towards the sky. Otherwise, no drop of rain will ever fall from the sky." What shall Hussein do now? The sky is refusing. The earth is not happy to accept Ali Asghar's blood. Poor Hussein wiped Ali Asghar's blood on his face. Hussein started walking towards his tents. He saw Ali Asghar's mother, Rabab, standing by his tent, a mother anxiously waiting for her baby. Hussein thought, "How can I face Rabab? What should I tell her? How can I tell her that her baby has been martyred without water?" 7 times Hussein went forward and then turned back, saying, "We are from Allah, to whom we will return." He finally reached the tent where Rabab was standing. "Rabab, come and take your Ali Asghar. Your little soldier has died for the sake of Allah." Rabab took her child, hugged him and cried her heart out. "Come with me, Rabab. Let us bury our baby Asghar." Hussein and Rabab walked towards the back of the tents. Hussein dug a small grave with his sword, the Fikar. Rabab placed Ali Asghar in the small grave. Hussein sat by the grave crying. The tears poured on the grave. Ali Asghar's grave was sprinkled with Hussein's tears. We are from Allah, and to him we shall return. Salawat ala
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Before we begin, I just have a few announcements about upcoming events. Currently, we have registration for the annual Ziyara journey, which is finally opened. It'll be from December 21st till January 3rd. It will include a night in Beirut, 5 nights in Karbala, 2 nights in Najaf, and many more. If you'd like more details, please see the desk outside for more information. In addition, we have upcoming Sunday school programs as well as Hawza and Quran classes, which will begin after Muharram, inshallah. Quran classes will be from October to May for ages 6 to 16, and the Hawza classes will also run for the same duration and be open to all. The classes are filling up fast, and Sunday school has already began filling up, so please register as soon as possible, and we'll see the table outside for more information. Just a few more announcements. We did find a men's ring. If you lost your ring, you go to the secretary's desk and find it there, inshallah. We also are going to be having, inshallah, more people coming, so if I could ask everybody to please move towards the middle as much as possible and try to make room for everybody else who is coming in. We want to do our best to accommodate everybody and make sure everybody has a spot. So please don't hold seats, and please make sure you have spots for other people. And please don't leave behind any water bottles, any trash, anything. This gym is your home, let's keep it clean. So without further ado, let's welcome our speaker, who needs no formal introduction, but a man whose reputation precedes him. The founder of Ahlul Bayt TV, his inspirational and knowledge has reached millions all across the world, both through broadcasts and in person, and we're very honored to have him with us tonight. If you can welcome up Sayyid al Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
صلى الله عليك وعلى آل بيتك المظلومين الغر الميامين. صلى الله عليك يا مولاي وابن مولاي يا أبا عبد الله. يا رحمة الله الواسعة ويا باب نجاة الأمة، غريب يا مظلوم كربلة. سيدي يا ليتنا كنا معكم فنفوز والله فوزا عظيما. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله. Tonight, Karbala is pulsating with Zuwar and the pilgrims who pay their respects and salute their master Abu Abdullah with tearful eyes. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك. عليكم مني سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار، ولا جعله الله آخر العهد مني لزيارتكم. If you were in Karbala, what would you say? Say it with me. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن وعلى أولاد وعلى أصحاب ورحمة الله وبركاته. May Imam al-Hussein himself bless us all tonight and grant us the privilege and the utmost honor of being able to kiss the floorway leading into his courtyard and into his shrine by the blessings of a loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. There's a verse in the Bible that you may not have heard in the context of Ashuraa before. It's a verse that while I was doing some research, turns out that there is a lot of controversy within Christian circles as to the actual meaning of this particular verse. It is narrated in the Gospel of Matthew, specifically Matthew 24:30. And in this verse, Matthew says, speaking and prophesying about future events, revelations that will take place in the distant future. Listen to what he says and see if you can make any sense out of this. Then the Son of Man will appear from the heavens above. Now, who's the Son of Man? Christians don't have any consensus as to the meaning of the Son of Man. Some say that
see, or what I remember when I read this verse. When I look at images of Ziyaratul Ibrahim, here's what I see. I see flags representing every nation on earth. I see, and remember the verse says every tribe or every nation on earth will mourn. Every single person. I see flags representing every sovereign nation on the face of the planet. I see people speaking multiple languages. I see different cultures. I see different customs. I see different means of hospitality to the pilgrims. I see people screaming out the name of Hussein in different dialects. But the one
between all of them is that they mourn. All the people of the earth, all the nations, all the tribes. Matthew 24:30, look it up. They will mourn when they see the Son of Man. We believe, and according to our scriptures, according to our references and sources, the Son of Man is none other than the son of Fatima. It is the son of Hassan and Hussein. It is the son of Amir al-Mu'mineen, the son of Rasulullah, the one whom we are told will appear in Mecca. Then he will go to Jerusalem to lead prayers. Then his next stop will be to Karbala, where traditions tell us the first thing he does is that he will reach inside the shrine of Aba Abdullah al-Hussein. And he will take out a tiny little body. He will bring it, raise it up high, show it to the people and say, if the adults had committed a crime worthy of what they faced on the day of Ashuraa, فَمَا ذَنْبُ هَذَا الصَّغِيرُ? What did this young boy do? 6-month-old infant. Allahu Akbar. Mercy was stripped from the hearts of the army of Yazid such that they showed no compassion toward children as well as adults. فما ذنب هذا الصغير إمام الحجة المنتظر أرواحنا لترابه الفداء will make Ali al-Asghar, the youngest martyr of Karbala, the very symbol of his mission to restore justice on earth. Because that is the one thing that all the tyrants of Bani Umayyah could not justify. If they could justify the murder of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein by claiming that he divided the nation, or he caused mischief, or he did this or that, as pathetic and as useless those justifications as they are, how on earth could you even attempt to justify the specific targeting of infants and killing them deliberately, not inadvertently? Abdullah al-Radi'a, to whom tonight is dedicated, Ali al-Asghar, he was not collateral damage. He wasn't an innocent bystander. He wasn't killed by accident. He was killed deliberately in order to set the heart of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein alight, to punish Imam al-Hussein and to torture him even more. And so it is at that moment when the hadiths tell us, when Imam al-Hujjah reappears. Listen to this, brothers and sisters. This is something for us to learn from. The Imam says, ألا يا أهل العالم إن جدي الحسين قتلوه عطشانا. ألا يا أهل العالم إن جدي الحسين تركوه عريانا. Imam al-Zaman isn't just speaking to us. He's not just addressing Muslims. He says, oh people of the world, Ya Ahl al-Alam, do you know what they did to my grandfather Hussein? And this gives you a little insight into how grand God's plan was for Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. Because the motto, the slogan of the awaited Savior, who was promised by every prophet and every apostle to come and cleanse the earth from oppression and injustice and fill it with equity and justice, his motto is Ya li Tharat al-Hussein. His slogan is, I am here to restore justice for Hussein. Avenge who exactly? Someone might say. Litharat means to avenge. Avenge from who? Who exactly are you trying to punish? 10 years ago, this question was rather more difficult to answer. Or I should say it was more difficult for people to digest the answer. Not anymore. You know why? Because now we have a living, breathing example of the monstrous and vile creatures that murdered Abu Abdullah al-Hussein on the day of Ashuraa, and they're the followers of ISIS and other terrorist groups. Imam al-Mahdi is here to do what exactly? It is to rid the world first and foremost of the likes of ISIS and the heirs and successors and the orphans of the army of Yazid. Just as they slaughtered Abu Abdullah al-Hussein's family while calling out Allahu Akbar, they killed his son Ali al-Akbar while saying Allahu Akbar. And without fail, in the very exact manner, you see ISIS doing the same thing. Killing innocent men, women, and children while calling out Allahu Akbar. The most sacred slogan of Islam, used in the most vile manner ever. Now let me ask you a question, brothers and sisters. We really don't have a lot of time, and it's a very, very special night. Tonight, it's my personal belief that tonight is very similar to Laylatul Qadr. Tonight you could set your destiny, just as you can do that on the night of Qadr in the month of Ramadan. Why do I say that? Is that just something that I'm saying because it would be popular to make that statement? No. Listen to the hadith of Rasulullah. Listen to this beautiful hadith. The Messenger of Allah says, Allah! Listen carefully. بِالْحُسَيْنِ تَسْعُدُونَ وَبِهِ تَشْقُونَ. It is through Hussein that you either find absolute happiness or utter misery. Hussein has this tendency. Either you could use him to reach the most lofty positions in paradise, just like his companions, whom I mentioned this a couple of nights ago. The vast majority of the companions of Imam al-Hussein weren't people of nobility, they weren't princes, they weren't kings, they weren't chiefs of their tribes. The vast majority were peasants. They were ordinary, regular folk who didn't come from an important family or a rich heritage or anything like that. They were ordinary people. But they decided to step up when the moment of truth came, when the call of Imam al-Hussein came. Just like it has come for all of us here tonight, they decided to step up. They decided to live as free human beings as opposed to animals shackled by their desires and their petty temptations. They decided to say no to the status quo. They decided to swim against the current as opposed to be led by the marketing apparatus of the consumerist society of this day and age. They decided to be human beings. And so tonight you could set your destiny. According to the hadith of the Prophet, let me finish that hadith. أَلَا بِالْحُسَيْنِ تَسْعُدُونَ وَبِهِ تَشْقُونَ. Or you can choose to be among those who either fought against Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. Na'udhu billah, na'udhu billah. Are there people like that today? Yes, there are. Yes, even today? Yeah. And I'm not even talking about ISIS. I'm talking about the type that tries to belittle Imam al-Hussein. I'm talking about those who are like, so what? Hussein was killed, fine. What's the big deal? Other people have been killed before. Let's all fast on the day of Ashuraa. The problem with fasting on the day of Ashuraa, and this topic has been saturated, but the problem with it, which the vast majority of Muslims today observe, at least those who are religious, is that fasting in Islam is traditionally observed as a sign of thankfulness. It's a sign of festivity and joy and happiness. That's why it's recommended to fast on the day of Eid al-Ghadir, for example. Fasting on Eid al-Ghadir equals 60 years of fasting. Why? Because Eid al-Ghadir is a festivity, it's a celebration. Which is why Bani Umayyah, may Allah curse them, turned the day of Ashuraa into a day of celebration. In fact, to this very day, there are people who celebrate the day of Ashuraa. There are countries, which I won't mention, I won't name, where the day of Ashuraa, they have a person that resembles Santa Claus, and they call him Baba Ashur. This Santa Claus of theirs goes to nurseries, kindergartens, schools, and on the street, hands out candy to people on the street in celebration for the day of Ashuraa. As if there was any ambiguity about why they're celebrating. They call him Baba Ashur. In some countries, there are billboards today saying Ashuraa yawmu farahin wa surur. Ashuraa is a day of celebration and happiness. We could have been among those. Brothers and sisters, may Allah bless you all. May Allah bless these luminous, beautiful, loving faces that have come here, taken time out of their school, their work, their families, to come and join Fatima al-Zahra in her grief for her son Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. We are forever thankful to Allah for this gift. Alhamdulillah alladhi, always say this, Alhamdulillah alladhi hadana lihada, wa ma kunna linahtadiya lawla an hadana Allah. Allahumma So the Prophet says, بِالْحُسَيْنِ تَسْعُدُونَ وَبِالْحُسَيْنِ تَشْقُونَ. Then he says, أَلَا إِنَّ الْحُسَيْنَ بَابٌ مِّنْ أَبْوَابِ الْجَنَّةِ. Paradise has 8 gates. One of them is called Babul Hussein alayhi salam. So, if you missed that window on the night of Qadr, or if you've made mistakes following the night of Qadr, if you feel that your shoulders are burdened with sin and guilt, tonight is the night, brothers and sisters. Tonight is the night of your destiny, the night to change it all and to turn back to Allah through the gate of Hussein alayhi salam. I could give lecture after lecture merely telling you the stories of the people that I have met personally who have been guided to the light of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through Imam al-Hussein. None other than Imam al-Hussein. The people that have converted to Islam, the people that have changed their ways and have decided to turn their lives around and become better people and abandon their life of sin and promiscuity, all thanks to Imam al-Hussein alayhi salatu wassalam. Now, the question I want to ask is this, brothers and sisters. We've talked a lot over the last 10 nights. Many of you joined us. May Allah bless you. And a lot has been discussed, but it really all boils down to one thing. One thing. And if I were to sum it up, I would ask you this question. Imagine you were there on the eve of the day of Ashuraa in the year 61 in the Hijri calendar. There is Abu Abdullah al-Hussein in Karbala, and he's calling for help. Where do you think you would be? What would your position be? Now, of course, we'd like to think that we would be there. And we should think that. And we should always ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and say, we wish we were there. Ya laytana kunna ma'akum fanafuza fawzan azima. These are the words of the Ahlul Bayt. To wish to be there is in itself a good thing. The hadith says that you are with whomever you love. Imam al-Rida alayhi salam says this to Rayyan ibn Shabib when he tells him, إن كنت باكيا لشيء فابكي على جدي الحسين ibn Ali ibn Abi Talib. If you're going to cry for anything, then cry for the reason tears were created. Aba Abdullah al-Hussein, right? In that same hadith, Imam al-Rida alayhi salam says, always say, I wish I was there on the day of Ashuraa, for a person will be raised with whomever he or she loves. Which is why I always say to young people, be careful whom you love. Be careful who you're infatuated with, who you're obsessed with. Be careful lest you start to love a singer, an actor, an actress, a sports star, an athlete. Imam al-Rida says, you will be raised with whomever you love. If you're going to love someone, love those worthy of love. Love Muhammad wa al Muhammad salawatullahi alayhim ajma'een. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. For Hussein is a gate to paradise. Now, once again, the question is, where would you be? And as much as I'd like to say that I would be there on the front lines joining Imam al-Hussein, here's the problem. Here's the problem. Let's be realistic about this. If you were told that in a month's time you're going to die, and it wasn't a fortune teller who tells you that, it wasn't a dream that you saw, it was as certain as tomorrow the sun rising. You knew for a fact that you were dying in a month's time. Are you ready? Am I ready? Am I ready to die in a month's time? Am I ready to die in 6 months' time? Am I ready to die by next year? If I were told that next Ashuraa you will most definitely not be walking on the face of this earth, you'll be buried 6 feet under. Would I be ready? What would I have to do to prepare myself for that? How many prayers have I missed? How many acts of worship? How many people have I wronged? Am I ready is the question. Imam al-Hussein, there were people who the Imam invited to join him, and you know what they said? They were ordinary good people. But they said to the Imam, for example, that no, I have to go back. I've got a few loose ends to tie. There are just a few things I need to do before I die. You can't die with Imam al-Hussein while you still have 2, 3, 4 years of prayer to compensate for. You can't do that. You have to compensate for them before the day you die. You can't just pass the bucket on to your family and to your kids. Listen to me. I've seen this over and over again. If you don't care enough about your own deeds, then your children will care even less. And I've seen this. Your children won't care as much about you as you do about you. Are we ready? If I can't get myself to leave my cozy bed in the morning to pray Salatul Fajr, how could I be ready to join Abu Abdullah al-Hussein and face tens of thousands of swords? If I'm not ready to give from my hard-earned money toward my religious obligations and alms like khums, if I'm not ready to do that, how could I be ready to give my blood to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? You see what I'm coming from? If I'm not ready to fulfill my religious obligations right now, how could I be ready when Imam al-Zaman calls me to come and join his mission? Let's be honest, brothers and sisters. We have a problem. I mentioned last night and the night before that there are certain things that allow us to refrain from sin and lead a pure life. One of those things that we never had time to cover was salat. Brothers and sisters, you know, on the day of Ashuraa, Imam al-Hussein lost 3 of his most loyal companions, and they were all loyal. But 3 noble companions were lost just so Imam al-Hussein could pray. Abu Thumama was one of them. The other was Sa'id ibn Abdullah al-Hanafi, whose story I mentioned. The one who stood to shield Abu Abdullah al-Hussein using his neck and his chest and his face. because he had to keep an eye on the arrows coming. He couldn't miss the chance by using a shield, and so he used his face to block the arrows that were being showered at Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. And the third person was a man by the name of Al-Hajjaj ibn al-Masruq. This man, listen to this. This person was a companion of Amir al-Mu'mineen, an older person, someone who was tried and tested. And so Imam al-Hussein gave him the honor of reciting the adhan throughout the journey. He joined Imam al-Hussein from Kufa. So he came to the Imam while he was headed towards Kufa. But then while he was there, at every station, when the time of prayer arrived, Imam al-Hussein would ask him to recite the adhan. Parenthetically speaking, brothers and sisters, the adhan contains Islam in a nutshell. That's what the adhan is. Adhan is that beautiful, melodic message of Islam that is recited in the ears of infants as soon as they are born. Adhan is the call to prayer, which is the greatest form of worship. Adhan, we have traditions that state if someone is angry and enraged, recite the adhan in their ear. Why? Because you remind them of what their priorities are. You say, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. It's recommended to recite the adhan in your home. Not too hard, not too difficult. Get your younger brother, younger sister, when it's adhan time, teach them. Put them in the habit. It's prayer time, let's recite the adhan. Now, Al-Hajjaj used to recite the adhan for Imam al-Hussein, except for the morning Fajr prayers on the day of Ashuraa. Imam al-Hussein told him not to recite the adhan. Instead, he got who to recite the adhan? The fruit of his heart, his son Ali al-Akbar. Ali al-Akbar recited the adhan in the morning of Ashuraa. And then for Dhuhr prayers, who recited the adhan? Arbab al-Maqatil mention this, historians mention all of this. They say, Al-Husaynu adhana binafsih. It was Imam al-Hussein who recited the adhan. Brothers and sisters, there's a problem when it comes to our prayers. And yes, you might be thinking it's the eve of Ashuraa. There are more important things to talk about. Let's focus on Imam al-Hussein himself. But Imam al-Hussein was killed for Salah. Amir al-Mu'mineen was killed during Salah. Rasulullah died while saying to Amir al-Mu'mineen, As-Salah, As-Salah, As-Salah. Those were the last words he uttered. Imam al-Sadiq passed from this world while saying, La tanalu shafa'atuna mustakhifan bisalatih. Our intercession shall never reach those who take their prayers lightly. Do you know what taking prayers lightly means? Let me give you an example. Say you buy a movie ticket, and the movie's supposed to start at 8. When do you show up at the movie theater? When? At least 10 minutes to 8. Why? Because you don't want to miss the beginning, right? Nobody wants to miss the beginning. You miss the beginning, you've missed the whole thing. You might as well not show up. Subhanallah. Or when you have the Super Bowl, not a second is missed. Not a second. That's why each second sells for millions of dollars in ad spots. Why is it that when it comes to Salah, let's at least treat it the way we treat going to the movies? That's how we take it lightly. And yet on the other hand, look what happens when you ensure Salah is done with perfection. We have 2 hadiths narrated both in Bihar al-Anwar. Both of them have the same context but different scenarios. They come to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wa alihi wa sallam. Sallu alaihi wa alihi. Allahumma salli. They say to him, Ya Rasulullah, there's a young man who steals, a thief, right? This is one hadith. The other hadith, they say to the Prophet, there's a man who looks at other women lustfully. He looks at people's wives and daughters and mothers with lust. Both of them acts of sin. Both of them are crimes. In both scenarios, Rasulullah asks them one question. He says, does he maintain his prayer or not? And in both scenarios, they say, yes, Ya Rasulullah. Yes. When it comes to prayer, he performs it and he does so meticulously and properly. Rasulullah said, then don't worry. His prayer will pull him back to the straight path. When you make sure that salah is your number one priority, when you set your agenda and your daily routine around your salah as opposed to the other way around, salah will pull you back out even if you slip. Salah will help you stand up even if you fall. Salah will bring you back to the standard set by Rasulullah and the Ahlul Bayt alayhim wassalam. So, if you're going to take anything out of these lectures, take this away, brothers and sisters. Imam al-Hussein is the gate of paradise, number one. Number two, one crucial means of reaching Abu Abdullah al-Hussein and entering through that gate is what? It is salah, it is prayer. Brothers and sisters, the Ahlul Bayt alayhim wassalam, Imam al-Hussein was the kind of person who did everything he did to salvage those who were there to shed his innocent blood. One thing I always say is that if you look at Karbala, the reason Ashuraa resonates so much, the reason we feel it on such a visceral level year in and year out, and it doesn't fade away, it never goes away, is because Ashuraa embodied the very best versus the very, very worst. Right? That dichotomy, that contradiction, that antithetical stance that you find in Karbala, that's what makes it so real and so visceral and so relatable that you read about Imam al-Hussein and his camp and you can't help but fall in love with them and shed tears for them. You look at the camp of Yazid and you are repulsed by everything they stood for, everything they represented. Right? You look at the camp of Imam al-Hussein, you see the likes of Hajjaj, and you see the likes of Habib, and you see the likes of Muslim and Awsaja, and you see the likes of Ali al-Akbar and Qasim and others. Then you look at the other camp, and what you see is nothing but filth. Hearts made of stone without a shred of mercy in them. Right? And yet, Imam al-Hussein called out multiple times. Some have said, he said 5 times on the day of Ashuraa, أَلَا هَلْ مِن نَاصِرٍ يَنصُرُنَا لِوَجْهِ اللَّهِ أَلَا هَلْ مِن ذَابٍ يَذُبُّ عَنْ حَرَمِ رَسُولِ اللَّهِ. Is there no one to help us for the sake of Allah? Is there no one to guard the women of the Messenger of Allah? Now, why would Imam al-Hussein say this? Remember, subhanallah, I didn't mean to say this, but I'll say it. On the eve of Ashuraa, Imam al-Hussein kept telling everyone to leave him and go. He told his companions, your pledge of allegiance, your oath of allegiance to me is rescinded. You have no more duty or responsibility towards me. He kept telling everyone, go, 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 go. On the day of Ashuraa, he is saying, come, 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 come and help us. Why? What happened? Didn't Imam al-Hussein know what was going to happen on the day of Ashuraa? Did he not acknowledge the fact that he was being faced by tens of thousands of people out to kill him? Here's the difference. On the eve of Ashuraa, Imam al-Hussein was telling everyone to leave him lest there is anyone who was a hypocrite. He was purifying his companions. He wanted to sieve them. He wanted to get rid of anyone who had any iota of doubt in their heart. If you were doubtful, if you were shaking, if you're unsure, then leave, go. On the day of Ashuraa, he kept saying, come and rescue us, come and help us, come and protect us, in case there happened to be someone worth saving in the army of Yazid. In case there was someone Imam al-Hussein could still pull out of the fires of hell. Which is why you all know the story of Hurr ibn Yazid al-Riyah. Hur joined the camp of Imam al-Hussein heroically and bravely. He was seen shaken. I don't want to repeat the story. He was seen shaking. Someone said to him, if they asked me who the bravest person of Kufa was, I would say none other than Hur. Why are you shaking? It's only Hussein and a small band of helpers and family and children. We can crush them within a few seconds. What are you afraid of? He said, I'm not afraid of death. I see myself standing between heaven and hell. He switches sides over to Imam al-Hussein's camp. He approaches the Imam. His head is lowered. The Imam said to him, Irfa' ra'saka ya Shaykh. By the way, let me say something here, brothers and sisters. If Imam al-Hussein could forgive Hur, who was the reason for the siege that led to the murder of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein, if Hur can be forgiven, then your brother and sister in faith can also be forgiven. Your husband, your wife, anyone who has wronged you from among the lovers of Hussein also can be forgiven. Tonight, rid your heart, cleanse your heart of any enmity, any hatred toward a fellow believer, a fellow lover of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. So then Imam al-Hussein said to him, Irfa' ra'sak, raise your head high in honor. You are a Husseini today. Sallallahu alayhi Abu Abdullah. Then, one thing you might not have heard before is that Hur had a brother who was also in the camp of Umar ibn Sa'd. When his brother saw Hur switching sides, he wanted an excuse to follow in his brother's footsteps. But obviously, he can't do what his brother did. So he said to those, his comrades and the people around him, he said, you know what? My brother has brought shame to our family. Let me go and kill him so that I could restore my family's honor. They said, sure, go. He ran straight to his brother, embraced him, and he said, I am here to die with you for the sake of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. Then there was a third person. He was the slave of Hur. Allahu Akbar. The slave of Hur saw himself surrounded by the army of Yazid. Hur is gone. Hur's brother is gone. He can't really resort to any of the excuses they made up. So he realized that he has no other option. He pulled out his sword. He began fighting those people around him until he was outnumbered and killed. Imam al-Hussein is trying to save people. And he's trying to save you and I. Ya Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. I know I am not worthy of your attention. I know that while you are seated next to the glorious throne of Allah today, I know I am not worthy of you even looking at me once. I have been a bad slave of yours, but I'm still your slave. I'm still yours. People see me and they say, هذا من شيعة الحسين, هذا من شيعة الصادق, هذا من شيعة علي. Take my hand and save me the way you saved Hur and his family. Now, we've run out of time. We've run out of time. The eve of Ashuraa was a difficult time for Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. Imam al-Hussein told everyone that they would be killed, one after the other. He gave them glad tidings. He showed them their position in paradise. Once he filtered them all out, Imam al-Hussein then gave them a boost of morale. You will be raised among the prophets and apostles of God on the day of judgment. He gave them those glad tidings to the point that on the eve of Ashuraa, they spent the night in prayer. But they also, Sayyid ibn Tawus says, he says, لَهُمْ دَوِيٌّ كَدَوِيٍّ نَحْلٍ. Have you ever walked past a beehive? Have you heard the noise it makes? The noise of all the bees flying around? That's the sort of noise you could hear from the camp of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. Everyone praying in prostration. Salah, salah, brothers and sisters. At one point, one of the companions starts to joke with his friend, cracking a few jokes. He looked at him. He said, is this the time for jokes? Is this the time for laughter? He said, how could it not be? It's only a matter of a few hours when we engage with this enemy with our swords and we are taken straight to paradise. There is no better time to laugh. There is no better time to crack a few jokes with old friends that we spent a lifetime in servitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and in recitation of the Quran. Habib ibn Mudahir, when he fell to the ground, Imam al-Hussein approached him. He said, Rahimakallah, may Allah bestow His mercy upon you. You used to recite the Quran all night long. These were the kinds of people who joined Imam al-Hussein. Then, on the day of Ashuraa, they started to be martyred one after the other. At one point, Burayr says to Imam al-Hussein, he says to him, Ya ibn Rasulullah, I can see Shimr and he's within range of my arrow. I can finish him off right now. Shimr was the top general in the army. The top general. By the way, you know how many people came to fight Imam al-Hussein? What's the number you've heard most often? 10,000? 20? 30,000, right? Well, let me correct a common misconception there. There was an army of 30,000 that were being dispatched to a specific location in order to fight a foreign enemy. When Muslim ibn Aqil was killed in Karbala, that same army was then rerouted towards Karbala. So what was this? This was an official army of soldiers and troops that were armed to the teeth. They were designed and they were prepared to fight a war, a foreign invasion no less. So that's 30,000. But that wasn't all that came to Karbala. In addition to the 30,000, historians say خَلِيَتِ الْكُوفَةُ مِنَ الرِّجَالِ. Kufa was emptied out of all of its men. Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad made a declaration that if any man is found in Kufa, if any adult male is found in Kufa, they are to be killed. In fact, after the army and after the people of Kufa had left, there was a Bedouin and a shepherd. He came to Kufa because a few days prior to that he had sold some sheep to a Kufan man. So he came to Kufa to collect his money. By the time he arrived, all the men had left the city. So he was captured by Al-Husayn ibn Numayr, not Hussein, Husayn ibn Numayr, who was the head of the security apparatus in Kufa. They captured this man. He said, who are you? Why are you still in the city? He said, well, why shouldn't I? I sold some sheep to a local person and I'm here to collect my money. He said, have you not heard the declaration, the order by Ubaydullah to go and fight Hussein? He said, no, I haven't. I'm not aware of any of this. I just showed up here to get my money. Hussein said, we need to take him to Ibn Ziyad. They took this poor Bedouin to Ibn Ziyad. He asked him the question, he interrogated him, he told the same story. Ubaydullah said to him, أَظُنُّكَ صَادِقًا, I think you might be telling the truth. But you know what? اضربوا عنقه حتى يكون عبرة لغيره. Sever his head so he acts as an example to any other man who happens to be in the city of Kufa. So the city of Kufa was emptied out. And the city of Kufa was a big city. It was the capital of Amir al-Mu'mineen. It was a city that was set up in the time of the second Khalifa, Kufanul Jaysh. It wasn't a small town. We're talking hundreds of thousands of men who were not soldiers. They weren't trained to kill. But they also happened to have weapons, which is why some of those who went to Karbala, they didn't have swords or spears. Do you know what they carried with them? They carried shovels, and they carried sticks, and they carried rocks, and they used all of those against Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. So much so that I mentioned this when someone would climb on a cliff in Karbala, they could see the entire horizon filled. Which is why one of our ulama who has written a book called Al-Kibrit Al-Ahmar says that those who came to fight Hussein on the day of Ashura numbered 1,000,000. In other words, 1,000,000 against an army of 110, 120 with women and children. صلى الله عليك يا أبا عبد الله يا مظلوم يا غريب يا عطشان السلام على الشيب الخضيب السلام على الخد التريب السلام على الثغر المقروع بالقضيب. Aba Abdullah is now ready to go to battle. He looks around, all of his companions are killed. He looks around, Abbas is killed. Ali al-Akbar, Al-Qasim ibn al-Hasan, his brothers, his nephew, they're all lying on the ground like butchered sheep. Aywa wayla wa musibata. One of the moments that breaks any heart is when Abu Abdullah looked around, saw no one to help him, so he began calling out their names one by one. مالي أناديكم فلا تجيبوا. I call on to you, but you are not answering me. أيوا ويله ومصيبته. The Imam proceeds to go to battle all on his own. He is the last line of defense. He is the only one left to protect the women and the children from these savage animals. Yet before he goes to the tent of his sister Zainab one last time. He says, أخيا ناوليني ولدي الرضيع لأودعه. My sister Zainab, give me my infant boy so that I would bid him farewell before I go. Now let me ask you this. The mother of this infant, the mother of Ali al-Asghar, al-Rubab, was there. She was in Karbala. Why would Imam al-Hussein ask his sister to bring him? Because there comes a point, only mothers know this, only a mother understands. There comes a point when a mother can no longer bear look into the eyes of her infant. This boy had no water to drink. His mother had no water to drink. There was no more milk left to feed her. So the boy was being looked after by Zainab. Zainab brings him to Abu Abdullah. She said to him, Ya Abu Abdullah, look at this young boy. Look at your son. لَقَدْ جَفَّ اللَّبَنُ فِي ثَدِيِ أُمِّهِ. These people have no mercy, but this is a young child. It's only a 6-month-old infant. Take him, maybe they will show some mercy and give him water. Allahu Akbar. There was a man that I met, subhanallah. He said that once we were on the road, we were driving across the country. We came to a place, we ran out of gas or we had engine trouble. So we pulled over and we stopped. He said, I was there with my wife, with an infant child. He said, subhanallah, for some reason that cars would pass us and no one would stop to help. They just saw a car standing on the side of the road. They wouldn't stop for help. He said, so my wife, after a while, it was hot, it was a dry day. My wife came up with an idea. He said, do this. I took that baby in my hand. I also took a bucket in the other hand. Then I proceeded to go to the side of the road. As soon as I did that, the first car that was approaching pulled over immediately. He said the driver of the car came out running hysterically. He came toward me saying, is there anything wrong with your baby? Do you need water? I can get you some water. Allahu Akbar. Abu Abdullah takes his child to the battlefield. Rubab is waiting. Sukaina is waiting. Zainab is waiting. They all have hope that the child would be spared. The thirst would be quenched. Abu Abdullah approaches them. Allahu Akbar. He says to them, Ya qawm, laqad qataltum ikhwati wa ashabi. You have killed my brothers, you have killed my companions. The only person I have left is this 6-month-old infant. Khuduh. The Imam doesn't say, give me water. He says, if you think that I would take the water for myself, then take him yourselves and quench his thirst. I don't know what happened. Oh lovers of Abu Abdullah, oh mu'mineen, it was only a matter of a few seconds. Historians say, وَبَيْنَ الْحُسَيْنُ يُكَلِّمُهُمْ. Hussein was still speaking with them. He's not even done talking yet. فَرَمَوْهُ بِسَهْمٍ مُثَلَّثٍ. They hit him with a 3-pronged arrow. An arrow that was used to kill, to hunt wild beasts. Allahu Akbar. Ya Imam al-Zaman, Ya Hujjat ibn al-Hasan. Some of those people were there engaged in pleasure hunting. They weren't there to kill Abu Abdullah. They were hunting for pure pleasure. رموه بسهم مثلث فوقع السهم على نحره. Call out, أيوا حسينا ومظلوما وإماما وغريبا أيوا ويلاه. This is the father, Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. He's still talking to them. Then he looks down only to see that the baby's head has been severed from the jugular vein to the jugular vein. Aywa Husayna wa musibata. Abu Abdullah took the blood that was gushing out of his tiny neck. He threw it towards the heavens. He said, Ilahi in kana hadha yurdik fakhudh hatta tarda. Oh Allah, if this pleases you, then take as much as you want until you are pleased. Then a call was heard from the heavens. Imam al-Baqir says, he says a call was made. Da'hu ya Hussein fa inna lahu murdi'atan fil jannah. Oh Hussein, leave him, for he has a nurse waiting for him in paradise. In other words, this call was made so Hussein wouldn't die of grief. It means that Hussein, don't worry about your son anymore. His thirst has been quenched now. Imam al-Hussein then went back to the camp. But how would he face Rubab? How would he face Zainab? How would he face Sukaina? So instead he went back to the back of the camp. He started digging the grave with the tip of his sword. Allahu Akbar, a father digging his son's grave with his hands. He dug that grave with his sword and placed the body of the 6-month-old while drenched in his blood. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. العلي العظيم. اللهم لعن أول ظالم ظلم حق محمد وآل محمد وآخر تابع له على ذلك. اللهم لعن العصابة التي جاهدت الحسين وشايعت وبايعت وتابعت على قتله. اللهم لعنهم جميعا. Those of you who have wishes and prayers, there is no knot that the tiny hands of Abdullah al-Radi' cannot untie. There is no problem that he can't solve. And the most important dua, the most important of our prayers should be for the reappearance of our Mawla, the avenger Imam al-Zaman. Allahumma ajjil li waliyika al-faraj wal-afiyata wal-nas. Everyone recite this together. Allahumma kun li waliyika al-hujjat ibn al-Hasan صلواتك عليه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وتمتعه فيها طويلا. إلى أرواح المؤمنين والمؤمنات نهدي ثواب مجلسنا هذا وثواب سورة المباركة الفاتحة مع الصلوات. اللهم صل. Brothers and sisters, very quickly, tomorrow, inshallah, we have the maqtal being recited at 9, I think, sister? So 9 o'clock, 9 a.m., we have the maqtal, which is the historical narrative, the actual story of the martyrdom of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. Make sure you attend, inshallah, because we get to talk about all the other martyrs over the 10 nights, except Imam al-Hussein. For him, we reserve the day of Ashuraa. It's a day of mourning, it's a day of lamentation. Do not go to work, don't go to school, don't do anything. Come to the majlis. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. And the program continues, inshallah, tomorrow night and the next 3 nights in total. So the program, I think, concludes on Tuesday, English as well as Arabic.
السلام عليكم جميعا. اخوان، في البوليس برا راح يقيم كل السيارات اللي واقفه مخالفه، وكلكم بتعرفوا اي واحد واقف مخالف. في سيارات بالآلة موقفه وفي وحده بيويك مكتوب